Okay.
Okay, do you want me to start it?
Yes, please. So we'll start, Larry.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the special meeting for Conservation Commission Inland Wetland Agency. Today is Tuesday, July 16th, 2020. It is a video teleconference call. 6:02, could I have the roll call?
Karen Stephanus?
Here.
Ed Holowinko? Here. John Malan?
Here.
Steve Kaki?
Here.
And Cheryl Brown?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, under the next item, receipt and discussion, I don't see anything. So I believe we can move on to item 4, which is discussion and or decision. The first item is S20-551, 284 New Canaan Avenue, Land Tech for Red Hill RE LLC, corrective action, restoration of a wetland and adjacent upland review area.
Yes. Hi, Chris. I'll get the site plan up on the screen if you want. So this application was received at the previous meeting. We didn't really have much discussion about it because Pete Romano had some trouble logging on. And I had given kind of just a brief overview of the circumstances. And basically, just to recap, the property comes in off of New Canaan Avenue, and it's just this little portion of the wetland area that was disturbed. So they received a notice of violation from our office. It directed them to apply for a corrective action permit, and that's what you have tonight. I don't know, since Chris is here, would you like to speak, Chris?
Alexis, sorry to interrupt you, but Matt Pence just joined.
Oh, okay, thank you. So Matt Pence at 6:04. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, for the record, this is Chris Allen. I'm a professional wetland scientist and a registered soil scientist with Land Tech. Yeah, my understanding is that the disturbance was caused when I think a tree fell, or there was some tree damage, and somebody went in there and kind of cut up what had fallen, and I guess there were some piles of wood chips in there, and a truck had backed in, caused some tire ruts, and that's what kind of prompted this corrective action. So we put together just a pretty basic plan to replant some shrubs in that area, to seed any disturbed areas, and that's what you see before you now. There's 15 shrubs that are proposed to be planted, 3 different varieties. Sweet pepper push, winterberry, and silky dogwood. And then there is a call for reseeding with New England wet mix, seed mix for any disturbed areas. Actually, we drove by there today, and the area looks to be pretty well revegetated. It's pretty stable. There's really no bare soils out there. So I think that the seeding will be minimal, but we will still propose to plant those shrubs in the area, some within the wetland and some within the wetland buffer, to kind of repair some of the areas that were damaged when they went in there. So that's really it. Happy to answer any questions that there might be.
Does anybody have any questions? It seems pretty straightforward. Alexis, do you have any concerns with this plan?
I don't. Like Chris said, it has revegetated since the time. I'm just looking when we issued the violation. It was a while ago. So it has had a chance to reseed. When we originally issued the notice of violation, we had issued it in March 2009, sorry. So since then, the piles of wood chips that were deposited within the wetland have been removed, and like Chris said, the area has revegetated. I do recommend the implementation of their plan so that the opportunistic non-natives are controlled as best they can be, and native species brought in.
Any other questions by the commissioners?
Not here.
John? No? Matt?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll do,
I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say, I saw in your email that you were going to draft up a resolution maybe sometime.
yeah, I mean, I have it. You can either, I can somehow convey that to you tonight, or you can have it at your next agenda on the 4th.
I guess I would prefer the next agenda so that you, if there's any bonds or anything, you could have that squared away.
Okay, that's fine by me. I don't think there's any immediacy. I don't. July is kind of a tough time to plant, so you know, I'd give them until a portion of the fall to plant. So I don't think there's a great rush to approve it tonight. Sorry, John.
Do we need to move to do we need a motion to do that, or, okay?
Nope. So we can just, you can table it to your next meeting, which will be August 4th.
Okay. All right then.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Night, folks.
Good night.
Good night, Chris.
Moving on to the next item, number 5, enforcement action, V20-1014, 10 Holiday Drive, Desimone, show cause hearing, unauthorized removal of vegetation and grading in and adjacent to a wetland.
Okay, first, Holiday Drive, which is off of Murray in the northeastern kind of corner of the city. The respondent received a notice of violation in late June 2020, and then after discussing with the respondent regarding kind of the extent of the extent and scope of the violations on the property, we changed it to an order in order to give the owner at 10 the opportunity to have a show cause hearing, to come before you to just to give him the opportunity to show cause or to give you testimony regarding the violation. Well, what we feel is violation, give him an opportunity to argue otherwise. So let me try to, so much harder digitally. Let me just run through, I'll do a screen share again. And give me 1 second. Just closed everything down. Okay, so 1 moment here. Sorry. Okay. So just to give you an overview, sorry. Now, see, I'm gonna have, it's gonna be hard to share. Hold on a second. Let me. I go through, hold on a second, sorry. Stop share. Because you have to choose what you share. So it's hard to actually go through photos. Let me just, okay.
Can you say which is which number? Oh, I see. There's
Yeah,
a little red.
So the property outlined in blue is number 10 Holiday Drive. Holiday Drive is at the top of the screen, just cut off. This is number 8 Holiday Drive, which you had a violation at about a year and a half ago. If you remember, some of you who have the commission may remember. We issued notices of violation to both number 10 and number 12. They both had done work in the rear portion of their properties here. This is the approximate extent or area of disturbance on each of the properties. We're just focusing though on number 10, which is outlined in blue. Sorry. Let me try to navigate. This is again in blue is number 10. This photograph is taken, this was in May 2018. So you can see the above ground pool, which will be in a variety of photographs, kind of a swale here. You can see a little bit of ponding there, and then kind of a wooded condition in the back, kind of dips in the center in, and then comes back out with trees on either side. Let me go back to, hold on a second, let me go back and forth.
What was the little green pin, Alexis?
That was just the location of his property. Then I'll share more recent photos. Oh, wait, hold on. That's such a pain. All right. So sorry, I don't have a way to go through them, but so in this photograph, the green grass on the right is number 10's existing lawn. The higher grass is at number 8, and this is where the wetland on that property had been restored into a wet meadow. And then on both properties, you have a wooded wetland. The wooded wetland on kind of the undisturbed wooded wetland on number 8 is here. And then the area that we cited as being disturbed is in the front here. The order cites a variety of activities, mostly the removal of vegetation. And then in the place of vegetation, there's a gravel path. There's a kind of a partially dug hole, and this is kind of in the center of the wooded wetland to the rear of the property. And then additionally, we cited the property owner for removal of vegetation on either side of the gravel path. Let me just, sorry, I'm going to go through photos to get to, including this area is in the previously wooded area. It's been seeded with a grass seed now. This is a path that had been cleared and some rocks that have been accumulated or deposited. Just going to go through these real quick, sorry. So the actual wetland line are these pink, oh, sorry, it's catching up. The actual wetland line, the respondent did have the wetlands flagged. And I know it's really small, but the wetland is right along these pink flags where my cursor is tracing. You can see those pink flags. Again, the lawn is all pre-existing lawn. It's just the, pre-existing lawned wetland. It's really the wooded wetland activities that are being cited. And so it was this this type of lack of vegetation that we cited the property owner for. So again, gravel path, a little bit of a hole dug in the wetland. And sorry, This is not the easiest way to go through these. I just need to click through, sorry. Catch up. So this is, I took this photo standing with my back at the property line with number 8, looking across to the wooded wetland. And so again, the ground vegetation and the understory vegetation have largely been removed, and it was that removal that we cited the property owner with. Let me just go back. We have met with the property owner multiple times. I'm going to stop my screen share and just try to navigate to another set of photos. We first went out on the property, I think it was in April 2019, to talk about activities that he would like to do in his wetland. But that was at the time when the neighbor had an active violation. So the owner of 10 Holiday was trying to be in line with the regulations. And so we met with him in April 2019 and in May 2019. And then on May 28th, 2019, he did apply for a declaratory ruling. Again, a declaratory ruling is a form that's laid out by the state statutes where a property owner can declare that they want to do certain activities that are as of right and don't need a permit within a wetland or watercourse. And they can declare that. And then if we agree, we make the ruling to allow certain work. And he had asked to remove fallen limbs and branches, debris from the wetlands, do some topsoil and top seeding and reseeding of the existing lawn area that had been damaged by the excessive amount of water that was in his yard, and plant some shrubs along the lawn woodland limit. And those were done fine, but I'd say that after that initial kind of tidying up of the wetland, the property owner continued with the cleaning activities and just took the cleaning activities a bit too far and made the wetland too clean. So I think I'll leave it at that, unless you would like some additional photographs of the property before the property owner did the work. I know that the property owner is here tonight and has photographs to show you as well. So if you would like to just go on to that, but that's what was cited, is basically removal of vegetation and altering the natural and indigenous character of the wetland and making it a thickly wooded wetland into something that was much more open underneath those canopy trees.
I have a question.
Yes.
The declaration that you were talking about, did it have specific limits within it as to what could be done under the authority that it seems to embody?
Yeah, so because it's a declaratory ruling, it doesn't have, we're not allowed to issue conditions. However, hold on, let me find them. We do have notes, like I mentioned, we met out with the property owner multiple times and did have discussions regarding the kind of the limits of the activities, what would be a regulated activity versus what would can be covered under the declaratory ruling. For example, on April 1st, I had noted that we discussed his yard and lawn, wanted to clean the wetland, explained needed a declaratory ruling, and discussed limits of activity within wetland. may just remove dead branches and fallen trees, no removal of any live material, no quote cleaning. So, and there's nothing in the declaratory ruling that was, described as being beyond that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and that declaratory ruling came from us?
Yes.
Okay, okay,
Right. Yep.
all right.
All right. And then let me just briefly, so that's our testimony. I will add that the original notice of violation was somewhat broad brushed. And so then when I reissued it as an order, I added more detail and hopefully clarity. The directive actions remained the same. So there were 4, and they're the 4 that you often see. 1, stop work. 2, hire a soil scientist to delineate the extent of the wetlands on the property. 3, submit a corrective action application. And then 4, implement whatever corrective action application is hopefully approved by the commission.
So Alexis, one of the pictures you showed us had the wetland markers. Was that done as part of item number 2?
Yes, and so the respondent, the property owners, they have stopped work, and they did hire a soil scientist to delineate the wetlands in that report and sketch map were delivered to our office on the 14th of July, on Tuesday. So that has been completed. Yes.
And the photo that you showed us then is a current photo.
Yes, and so Brenda and I were back out at the site again on July 14th on Tuesday to go over the order and to kind of look at the wetland and point to the on the ground areas that we were referring to in the order.
Okay.
Any other questions before we invite the property owner to speak? All right.
I'm glad to hear from him.
All right. So Mr. Desimone?
Am I up, Alexis?
Yes.
Okay. Can I share the screen? Because I do have photos and things I'd like to just show as we go through.
Give it a try.
Okay, just as a little background, my wife and I have been at Holiday Drive since 1987, so we've been here roughly 33 years. And pretty much the entire time we've been here, we've had an established lawn and the wooded area on the property since we've been here. So I'm going to try to show you some pictures. Hopefully this will work. Let's see. Share. So this is just if I can get this, if you can see this photo, hopefully this is a photo of my property a couple years ago. It's kind of cut off. Let me see if I can move it over a little bit. It shows pretty much an established one, and you can see the tree line in the back where the woods start and the lawn ends. And you can see in the middle here, which I'll talk about in a little bit, this was always a bit of an opening or a dirt path going back to the yard, which is where the gravel path ended up. So if you kind of keep that in mind, because we'll talk about this a little bit. Vegetation was impacted, but there was no vegetation in the path area, and I'll show you a little bit of that later on. But this was a picture that was taken a few years ago, showing the established lawn and the tree line in the back. So that being said, did I lose it? I lost it again. We tried again. So the first thing that we talked about was the removal of the vegetation. As Alexis pointed out, I had put in an application in 2019 to do some corrections to the property. Some were due to damage, I believe, resulting from my neighbor's activities. But one of the activities was to clean out the woodlands. And if you can see, this is the wooded area prior to any activity. And you can see it's pretty much overrun with debris, downed branches, piles. And I have more pictures as well. So although there may have been some vegetation back here, it was mainly covered over with debris and really just garbage and downed branches. And you can also see here that I was getting water not only in the back of my property, but also going back into the wooded area. This is the path that we talked about before, and this is where the hole was dug. We'll talk about in a little bit, but you can see there's a significant water accumulation back in this area, which was impacted, as well as the path. So a few other pictures of the area before the area was cleared, just to give you an idea of the amount of the debris that was back there. These are just some pictures. This one I just showed you. Let me get back. Hold on one second. Get back to that. These are different areas of the woodlands before anything was cleared. You can see there's a lot of debris and fallen branches and really just overgrowth, pricker bushes, etc., that were covering the wooded area.
Mr. Desimone, I have a question before this picture goes away.
Sure.
The area where the path was, that's
Yes.
now water, at what time did that become water?
This became a
before that
major,
wasn't.
I'll show you in a little bit. This became a major problem in 2018. As you may be aware, my neighbor at 8 Holiday Drive, when he purchased the home, made major changes to his landscaping. And when they put the stop order on, he basically had a bare yard in the backyard. It was really just dirt. And so in the winter, I'll show you in a little bit, in the winter of 2018, I have pictures that shows my entire yard pretty much underwater, which I believe was due to runoff from his property prior to him being able to implement his corrective action, which put his wetlands back. He originally had a wooded area back there, which was removed, as well as an established one, which was also affected, and trees that were removed. So in the winter of 2018, his property was basically just an area of dirt, and all vegetation had been removed. And I'll show you in a little bit. This is when I started to experience significant water problems and flooding in the back. It's since improved because now that he got his corrective action, and last fall, he put his plantings back in and has vegetation in the back. So I believe that the amount of water that I'm getting from his property has significantly reduced. So it's pretty much now just whatever water is accumulating. I believe whatever water is accumulating now is coming from my property, not runoff from my neighbor's property. But this was in the spring of 2015, right before we went and requested the corrective action to clear it out. But as you can see, there's a lot of growth and ground cover in the back of the wooded area. Not only here, but I'll show you just a few other pictures if I can. Just some of the other areas that were affected. This is actually the wall we're going to talk about in a little bit. You can't even see the wall right now because it's just completely covered in really overgrowth and debris and downed branches. So the intent was to actually clean up and improve the wetland, not to basically strip it of vegetation. It was trying to make it more wetland friendly by clearing out all the debris and the overgrowth that was in the back. So these are just some of the pictures that we had prior to the activity to remove it. And this is actually that ponding area they're showing you, but you can see there's a significant amount of debris and branches that accumulated.
We're not seeing the other pictures. We're seeing the same picture the whole time.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me close the other picture out and maybe you can see it now.
Yeah,
So
then
stop sharing when I do that. So I'm not sure. Can you see the picture now with the ponded area?
now we can. Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I guess if I show more than one, it doesn't show. So the point is that there was significant growth, and I believe Alexis can confirm that because, again, she was out to see the property before any of the work was done. This is the ponded area. So again, the goal was to clean up the wetlands and make it more wetland friendly and clear out all the debris. So I know I keep losing the sharing every time that happens. I'll show you a picture that was taken after. Oh, this is just some of the photos of the question was asked regarding the issue with the water. So this was the winter of 2018 after the construction next door of my neighbors. You can see my entire yard.
We're not
We're not there.
seeing it again.
You're
We're
not
not
seeing
there.
it.
We're on some document.
We're seeing a document.
Okay, can you, I'm not sure. Can you see it now?
No,
All right, let me close out my other things here that are here and see if you can see it.
Yeah, maybe stop sharing and then start again.
Okay. Stop share. I'll close out some of the other things that are on the screen to make it less busy. Okay. I apologize for the delay. So regarding the water issues, can you see it now?
No, no, we can't.
You can't see the photo.
we just see the thumbnails.
The way to show these in Zoom is to open them all up first and then share your screen and then go to each one.
Okay, Alexis, you don't have any way to pop that. I sent these to you in originally. You can't show them, can you?
But if you just stop sharing, open the ones that you want and then go to share, they should show.
Okay, just give me 1 second then and I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah, open the ones that you want to share, then go to share.
I'd originally tried to get this to Alexis today, but she was having some issues due to the size of the files and the format of the files. There's quite a few here, so hopefully this is going to work. If this doesn't, then I can just talk you through it. We'll just have to do it without the help of the pictures. I'm hoping Alexis can pretty much confirm what I'm speaking to, because again, she's been to the property multiple times, both before and after the issues next door. So let me go back here now and try to share. Okay, I see them. Okay, so now they're pretty much all in here. So I wanted to show you the ones that were the issues with the flooding. So this was the, it's still not showing that one.
It's to the side there.
Where is it?
To the far right. Is that it? The other picture there.
I don't know. I have multiple pictures on the screen now, so I'm not sure if this is actually.
We're looking at a flooding picture with the pool in the.
Okay, so you are looking at the good picture. So this was the winter in 2018 after my neighbor's landscaping modifications next door prior to him. So this is basically when his yard had stopped action. He had a dirt path. So I was getting runoff from his property across the entire rear of my property and into the woods, which resulted in damage to my property, and which was one of the things that we had requested, which is to repair the lawn, which was part of that declarative ruling that went into Alexis back in May. So just to see, you can see the extent of the water that I was getting during that winter. And this went on for actually several months.
So the lawn was repaired under the declaration?
Yes.
Alexis? Okay.
Yes. So we had got approval to repair the one that was damaged as a result of the flooding.
Right.
At our expense, basically, as well as to clear the wetlands and to plant the shrubbery in the front, which was done this year, not at that time. That was done this past June.
Okay.
So let me just show you a couple of things. So going back to the issue of the property, I'm trying to find the photo now of the after the area was cleaned. I'm not sure how I can get to that. Let's see, how do I get back to? I'm trying to find the photo. I can't find the photo of where I was actually referring to. I have too many photos here now. Okay, so this was after it was cleared out.
Yeah, we're still seeing the same photo. You're gonna have to stop and start sharing it.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Can you see it now?
Yeah,
So this was the area after all the debris was removed. And this area in front is the damaged lawn. This is in front of the woods where the lawn was pretty much damaged from the flooding. So as you can see, there's not a lot of vegetation here. Now, I will say this, the main objective that was to clear out the debris. And also I know they pruned back and weed whacked some of the growth. So it was not an intention to remove any vegetation. I don't believe any vegetation was intentionally removed, but in light of the amount of debris that was taken out and the pruning that was done, it's very possible that we inadvertently either removed or damaged some of the vegetation that was there. So I acknowledge this violation. I'm not contesting the violation, but I'm just trying to show you the amount of work that went into to actually clear that area out and the end result. So I accept this violation. I know we're not here to talk recommended solutions. So is there any questions regarding this particular violation?
I have a
When was
question.
the,
This the area where the gravel path goes, this area in the middle of the picture?
That would be it right here. I'll show you that. This used to be a dirt path, then it became basically a flooded area, but there's really no vegetation in the middle here. There was vegetation to either side of it, but the middle was basically a dirt path, and then it became almost like a little river every time it rained.
when was that gravel path put in?
When was it put in? It was put in this past June. That's one
Okay.
of the violations. So,
No.
so this took place in June of last year, the removal of the vegetation, the removal of the debris. This was done last year. But it ended up potentially removing more vegetation than was intended, or I'm not saying remove, I think maybe damaging more vegetation than was intended by simply the amount of debris and overgrowth that was removed. So this was last year.
Right, that was on June 4th, 2019.
Right.
And at the time, so just to back up, when the Desimones were in the middle of doing their declaratory ruling work, the neighbor was in the middle of their violation, and we were meeting with the neighbor number 8 who had the violation in 2019, and actually came over and talked to your landscaper while they were doing the work, and had asked them to stop doing the extent that they were doing, because they had done some pruning that was more than was covered under the declaratory.
Okay,
So this had not been repaired at that time. And that is one of the violations. And again, I accept this violation. And again, we're not here to talk solutions, I guess. So just wanted to show you the background and went into this particular violation. Again, it was not intended to damage the wetlands. It was actually an attempt to improve the wetlands, but potentially was a little too zealous and took out more than was intended. So at this point, if there's no other questions, I got to move on to the other violation, the next violation, which was the stone wall. Can we move on? Any questions regarding this?
Here.
So hopefully we'll be able to see. So what happened is I had previously, I lost some of the pictures again now. Just give me 1 second here. Trying to get back to my other pictures and open them up and then start sharing again. So this is, I had 2 walls here originally. I had a small set of stones or rocks along, this is the left boundary of my property pretty much. There were a small set of rocks along here, but not any kind of structured wall. It was just basically a line of rocks that were lined up along the tree line. And then to the right of that, there was this is not any particular marker on my property, but this has always been here. There was just really this, it's not even a wall, but there was a line of rocks that were stacked up to the right here that really didn't designate any kind of marker. They were just a pile of rocks that had been there since we moved in. So what the landscaper did is they took some of the rocks that were along this wall and moved them over to this wall to create a more structured, uniform wall on the boundary. So it was mainly just transferring rocks from this wall to that wall. And if I can show you, where's the other picture? Let's see. This is what the structure wall looks like now along the left property line. And again, it was just a series of rocks that were along this wall to begin with.
Is that the pathway along the right-hand side of the wall?
It's an opening between the two. Yes, there's a pathway. So if I go back over,
It's not the middle pathway.
no, it's not the middle pathway. No, this is on the left side. This is not what we were looking at before.
No.
This is on the left edge of my property.
Okay,
The pathway is pretty much in the middle of the woods. So this is probably, I'd say 30 or 40 feet to the left of that. And then this, if I can find it here. So this shows also where the wetlands markers are. And if you could see actually some
We're
of
not
this
seeing
area.
it. We're not
You're not
seeing
seeing
it.
it.
You're gonna have to close out and go back in each
All
time.
right.
We're not seeing the picture.
Okay, I can do that. So these are this is the new wall. This is the old wall. I shouldn't say this. This is the wall before it was built up. You can see the wetlands marker here, and there's another one on the tree. So basically, this area of the area that was modified was not wetlands. It kind of goes diagonally back to my neighbor's property and then across and then back out again. So the two corners of my property are not designated wetlands. So my position here is, although we did activity in this area, the two walls did exist previously. So I'm asking the commission to consider deleting this violation because we simply moved stones from one wall to the other without really any impact to the wetland. Now, the path in between was one of the areas that Alexis originally designated where the vegetation had been either removed or damaged. So in between those two rocks, the intent is to seed that area and replace it with the wetland seed mix. But the walls themselves did not affect the wetland, just the area between the walls, which is covered by the first violation, which was the removal of vegetation. So I'm not sure if this is the correct forum for that, but I was asking the commission to consider deleting this violation that regards the changes to the wall structures on the property.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but did we have any pictures showing what the wall looked like before it was beefed up?
You do not, because the problem I have with that, the only picture I had was the one with the vegetation. I can show you again. Just let me stop sharing for a moment. And I'm
And
gonna
just
go
to
back.
clarify, the violation is not that you constructed a wall. It was that, so typically wetlands are very rocky. The soil type that Mr. Thiel delineated your wetland as, the Ridgeberry wetland soils are poorly drained soils, and they're often interspersed with boulders and small boulders and stones. It's a very stony wetland soil. So stones interspersed with a poorly drained wetland, and they've always been a source of rocks. And in the initial photographs that Brenda took when she was out at the end of June, when we issued the notice of violation, in the photo that you last had, you had the path, and the path has no rocks or stones in it, but then there were piles on the either side. So it's not so much the piles, it was the removal of the rocks from the wetland, the ground.
Right. Well, as I mentioned to you previously, there were some ground surface rocks on the ground. They were
Right.
just sitting on the ground.
Yep.
Those rocks were just moved to the side. They weren't necessarily excavated or dug up. They were just simply moved so that, I can navigate the path a little easier.
Yeah, we consider that excavating to move
Okay.
them.
even if they're not dug up?
Yep,
Okay,
Yeah.
so there were a couple of rocks, 2 or 3 rocks that were in the middle of the path that were moved to the side to pretty much make it easier to navigate the pathway. So I'm not quite sure though, I guess I could talk to you offhand, Alexis. I'm not sure what I'm responding to on this particular violation. I do agree that, you know, the wall was built up more than it was, that was there, and a few rocks were moved from the
Yeah.
middle of the path to the side.
right. And I know that you look at it as a series of violations, and we kind of just look at it as one violation, where
Okay.
the cumulative activities have resulted in a change to the wetland that results in a reduction of wetland function. So it's all the little things, the removal of the rocks off to the side, the blowing, using the landscape blower to blow away the leaves and any fallen detritus down to the bare earth. All of those activities result in a very barren and dried out wetland. So
Okay.
it's kind of all those activities together.
So even though there's kind of multiple individual violations listed, like where you said, where I asked for, and you said specifically, so in the paragraph that lists specifically 3 or 4 violations, you take it as a whole, not necessarily individual.
Correct.
But now when just for my edification, so when I respond back with the permit for corrective action, I'm supposed to respond to each of those items individually, I assume, correct?
Somewhat, right.
Okay.
Really, somehow it comes down to restoring the previous functions and the previous values that the wetland held. So before it was seasonally inundated with water, and it acted like a sponge, and all that organic leaf matter on top helped with it. It's the whole system.
Okay. All right. So I'll talk to you offline then. But again, I acknowledge that we did move some rocks and we built the wall. So, so moving on to the next portion of the violation, which was the depression. You showed the hole in the ground. I acknowledge that was not supposed to be dug up. That was an error by the landscaper. I'll show you, if I can. I'll probably have to close it again let me close all these other pictures. Let me share. Let's see if I can get that picture. So this is the depression. Now, if you don't know if you can tell, this is the area that floods or ponds whenever it rains. It actually runs from this area all the way back to almost the wall. And if you remember in earlier pictures, so the pathway is leading up to this hole, the gravel path or the dirt path. And then behind that dirt path, from here to the back, it pretty much ponds whenever we get water, and whenever we get rain and it fills with water. So what I had asked the landscaper to do, which was actually on the declaratory ruling, was to simply, which honestly, Alexis, I didn't realize that even removing leaves was an issue, because we wanted him to just clean up the ground cover in here to see if this area was suitable for potentially putting wetland plants back here. When I did the declaratory ruling in 2019, one of the items listed for future changes was to possibly plant either ferns or some type of wetlands in this ponded area, but we didn't know really what the soil was underneath here. So all he was supposed to have done was simply remove any branches or leaves, and instead he dug the hole. And once we realized what was going on, I stopped it immediately. But unfortunately, it ended up with, as Alexis mentioned, this hole is about 1 foot deep. And as you can see, it's very rough. It's not smooth at all like the rest of the ponded area is. And it's actually pretty jagged. So I acknowledge that this was done. It was done in error. But the only thing I have to hear is I did take issue, and I don't know if Alexis, if you actually measured it when you were here the other day, on the violation, it claims that this is about 20 feet wide, and the actual opening is only about 8 to 10 feet wide. So it's less than half the size that's in the violation. So I just request, if possible, that the violation be amended to reflect the correct size of the violation.
Did the landscaper give you a reason for digging this out?
No, The landscaper, it's a language barrier. The worker that was here did not speak English. His the supervisor had left. And as soon as I saw him dig the hole, I stopped it immediately. It's just a miscommunication.
So they thought they were supposed to dig the hole for some reason.
Instead of just simply clearing out, the leaves and the debris on top,
All
which
right.
I did not realize even that was a violation, but that was the intent, to see the ground underneath to see if we could possibly plant anything here.
Okay.
So I acknowledge this violation. So the last one had to do with the path. And that can go back, if I can show you that picture again. Now that you see what the rest of the property looked like, go back to that one again. Oh, I just want to show you one other thing, two pictures, what it was before, again. And where's the actual picture, 1523. Okay, so hopefully we can see both of these. I'm trying, this is the last set and then I'll be done. So this is going back to the flooding area you had, I'm sorry, that's the wrong, this is going back, can you see the flooded area?
Yes.
So this is going back to, again, this is the depression where the hole is, and this is the gravel path, which again used to be a dirt road, a dirt path. So what ended up happening is the landscaper, at my request, had put in a small dirt path, gravel path, I'm sorry, small gravel path from the edge of my grass leading up to the depression.
How long is it?
What's that?
How long and how wide?
It's about 6 to 7 feet wide by just under 30 feet long. So what I calculated is the path itself, the square footage of the path is roughly about 200 square feet. The wetlands area, based on the markers that the soil analyst marked, my total wetlands is about 16,000 square feet from the markers all the way to the back. So this area comprises about 1% of the actual wetlands area. And based on the previous violations, the intent was always to seed the left and the right portions of the path with the seedling mix and replace the vegetation that was either damaged or removed. But this nothing here was actually dug or removed. It was simply dirt and flooding. We just simply covered up the dirt path with roughly an inch of, not even an inch of gravel. And again, the square footage of this is about 200 square feet at most.
Well, what were you trying to accomplish by putting it in?
The intent was to have access, because if we were going to vegetate the rest of the property, I was trying to keep the path open that I always had to the back here, so I could get to the ponded area in the event that we wanted to eventually do some plantings back there. I always had an opening here going all the way back before any of this happened, but it was always just a dirt path, which now had become wet. So the intent was to just have something that the water could drain through, and I could still access the back portion of the property through the gravel path. That was the intent.
Okay.
So that is it regarding the violations. Now, I'm not sure if this is the correct form or not. Given the relative small portion of the wetlands that this affects, and the fact that this was not vegetation before in this area, I don't know if this is the correct form or not, or if it's in the actual committee meeting. I was going to request that if it's possible to keep the gravel here, to basically still allow the path to the back if the rest of the property around it is vegetated.
Yeah, so that's not for tonight. Tonight is
Okay.
they're just looking at the activity cited in the order, and then your testimony and whether to uphold or withdraw the order.
Okay, so I'm done at this point. Those are the violations, and that was the rationale or the activity that led to those violations. Are there any questions?
No.
Okay, so if you can stop screen sharing.
Yes, let me go back. I think you have it back.
Would you like any more information, maps, aerial photographs? You kind of have a good idea of what it looks like.
I did have Alexis. I forgot to show, but you have it too. I was going to just show them the wetlands mark that were the actual map that Otto had provided of the wetlands demarcation relative to. I don't know if that's necessary or not.
I think that would be a good thing to see.
Yep.
I have
I'd
that.
like to see it.
I'll pull that up.
I mean, I'd like to have it somewhere along the line. I'd like to be able to download it and take a look at it.
Okay, we will, I will add it to the website. Absolutely. And then obviously, if there is a future application, it will be submitted as part of that. But here's the soil map. Take it out a little bit. So again, here is the above ground pool that you see in multiple photographs, cut off, and at the bottom of the page is Holiday Drive. This dotted line is the 2016 approximate limit of lawn. So this is kind of the clearing. This is where the gravel path is now. The wetland line extends from flags 1 through 5, which cut through the lawn adjacent to the pool, and then to the very rear of the property. As Mr. Desimone had said, both of the corners are a little bit higher and are not wetland soils. This line here is the pre-existing dry laid stone wall. The other stacked wall was approximately in this location.
Actually, if I can, Alexis, the other wall was actually along this line. It's right along. You can't see it. It's right along the property line.
The property line.
That's where the wall was
Yep.
built up using that wall to the right.
Okay. And then the like I said, the path is approximately here, and the hole here, and then it's generally this area, and then this area, and along here that's been cleared of vegetation. I don't have any issue with the wetland delineation. It is very similar to the delineation that was previously done last year on 8 Holiday, and likewise the 12 Holiday recently had their wetlands flagged, and these lines are very similar as well. One thing I will note is this this dark line here is intermittent water course. And it does flow from the north to the south. So it flows in the direction from 12 to 10 to 8. The swale or low area, I don't know if it looks like it may have had a little topsoil when the shrubs that you recently planted were installed. So there's not as much of a swale here anymore. But there is still going to be some superficial flow across here, and as Mr. Desimone said, across in the back.
So at times of extreme rainfall, water movement tends to be from left to right on this chart.
Correct.
Okay.
And then down into 8, which had historically been the low area. And then it continues down to towards Murray.
Okay.
So Alexis, Mr. Desimone had some concern about the depression, 1 foot by 20 feet. Would you agree with his assessment on that it's not quite as large?
Sure. Yeah, maybe a little bit smaller.
Okay.
The excavated area itself, and then outside of that excavated area is an area of deposition.
Right.
But if you want to just limit it to the excavation, sure.
Okay, so commissioners, I guess the thing that we have is, do we want to uphold this enforcement order or modify it or dismiss it? I mean, Mr. Desimone has openly said that the activities that are stated, with the exception of the excavation size, in fact did happen. So to me, it seems like the order should stay, maybe with a modification of the depression, but what is everybody else thinking?
I agree with that. It should be accurate. I mean, the right measurements, but otherwise I agree.
I agree as well.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Anything else anyone wants to bring up, or do you want, someone wants to make a motion?
I can make a motion to uphold the enforcement action for V20-1014 for 10 Holiday Drive, with the edit based on the size of the hole. If we need to double check it or, re-estimate it. Do I need to say anything else? Okay.
I don't think so. The motion's been made by Cheryl Brown. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Seconded by John Malan. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye on Alexis's roll call.
Karen DeStephanus,
Aye.
John Malan,
Aye.
Matt Pence,
Aye.
Ed Holinka,
Aye.
Steve Kaki,
Aye.
Cheryl Brown.
Aye.
Okay, so Mr. Desimone, we're maintaining this enforcement order. We are going to modify, I think Alexis will modify the size of the excavation. And I mean, you've already started some of the directives, no site work, you've done the wetlands delineation. So the next step would be for you to develop a corrective action permit application, which, Alexis can provide you some guidance on that.
Yeah, she and I have already been in communication on that. She's actually provided the application to me, and I've actually been using her as a resource to help me with that application. I believe the target date I have for submittal of that is June 28th. I'm sorry, July 28th.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That's,
Which is
yeah,
roughly-
that's what it shows on this order, yeah.
So my intent is to submit that on time to move this. I'd like to move this along as quickly as possible. So that is my intent, to meet that date. If I run into some issues trying to get the application corrected, I will reach out to Alexis if I believe I need an extension, but I intend to try to hit that date if I can.
Perfect. Okay.
And then the next step after that, I'm sorry, it would be what then, a hearing, or not a hearing, a presentation at the committee of that, a review of that application?
Yeah, I can send you all of that information. So we're going to send you an updated letter.
Okay,
And then I will give you some updated information regarding the meeting schedule. And,
Okay.
And we can talk more about the application process.
okay, thank you.
Very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Alexis, I can leave the meeting now, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Desimone.
All right.
Okay, so I'm looking that we don't have anything for bond release. And the next item is approval of the June 11th, 2020 meeting minutes. Does anybody have any changes or comments to these minutes? Wait, June 11th, this is June 30th.
Shoot. Sorry. Should say June 30th.
Okay.
Ay, ay, ay.
That's okay. Does anybody have any changes?
Nope.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept the June 30th, 2020, sorry, meeting minutes as presented. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ed Halowinko. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye at Alexis's roll call.
Carrie Stephanus,
Yes, aye.
Cheryl Brown,
Aye.
John Malan,
Aye.
Matt Pence,
Aye.
Ed Halowinko,
Aye.
Steve Kaki.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, it doesn't look like there's anybody in attendees for public comments, so I'll move on to comments of staff.
No, I'm done now.
Awesome. Then I'll move on to comments of commissioners. Does anyone have any comments? Excellent. So do I hear someone making a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It's been made by John Mailing, seconded by Ed Halowinko. All in favor? There we go.
All right.
Everyone have a lovely, lovely week. So wait, you said that the next meeting is August 4th?
August 4th.
Is that a Thursday again or a Tuesday?
It's back on a Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah. You typically meet the second and fourth Tuesdays when Common Council meets. So it's going to be very difficult during the era of Zoom to meet on the same night as council.
Right.
So,
Wait a second. August 4th is a Tuesday.
Yeah, it is.